What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I want to counterpunch the fight that I seen yesterday between Nathan Gorman versus Daniel Dubois. It was a shutout, people. It was a KO in round 5. First round, he could have went either way. Second round was clearly Dubois. He started cutting off the ring, started throwing combinations in there, really putting his punches together. Round 3, he dropped him, hurt him with a flurry of punches that he couldn't handle. Down he goes. Fourth, Dubois took it again. In fifth, he really scored with because he has long fucking arms. He has long, massive reach. I think it's 83-inch reach that Daniel Dubois has. Gorman tried to throw a jab. He went right over the jab with a sharp right hand, hitting him upside the head, kind of like that Anthony Joshua kind of punch, or should I say the Andrew Ruiz punch, hitting him right in the temple punch, and he was down, done. That was it. He didn't really have any answer for Daniel Dubois. This was highly anticipated. The thing that gets me is and this was a good thing, that Gorman was a sportsman. He showed good sportsman-like conduct after, he was a good fighter. Take nothing away from him. I always thought he was a good puncher and stuff like that. The build-up was what it is, but it's nothing like getting that ass beat to understand, hey, this other fighter that did that to me has talent. You know what I'm saying? And I can respect that, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. When you get in the ring, all the talk, all the hype, all the this, all the that, that goes out the window. It's all about how good you are versus the next fighter. And Daniel Dubois proved to go to that next level. Now, the funny thing about Daniel Dubois, he wasn't real. They didn't even think he was ready for this type. And if you really ask me honestly, if this was somewhat of an elimination, because we had two people on the card. We also had Joe Joyce and we had Bryant Jennings, and that was a good fight. I think Joe Joyce just outworked him. I do question Joe Joyce's knockout ability now, because, for one, Luis was able to stop him. He went in there with Klitschko, and Jennings is tough. He's a Philly fighter. I get it, so we could always put that in there in the equation, that he is a Philly fighter, so he can take those punches. But the thing is, that shows you either Joe Joyce, the punching that he has, he's not really accurate with his punches. I think he's more about volume instead of really leaning on his punches. Or Luis Ortiz can punch higher than him, because Luis Ortiz did put Bryant Jennings out. Him, along with the other Latino boxer, Oscar Rivas. So, hey, that just shows you a lot about a fighter, how people can survive this fight with this particular fighter and just get shut out or beat by this other fighter. And Bryant Jennings, don't get me wrong, has always been stopped due to the fact that, okay, that's enough punishment, because Bryant Jennings is a tough guy. I'm not saying it is not tough, but I don't want to get too far off topic. The reason why I brought that other fight up, is cross-examination for the others. I think that, honestly, Dubois needs to fight Joe Joyce, so we can see who's good and who's the best out of those, because remember, they have just as many fights together. And a matter of fact, I think Dubois has more fights now. I think Joe Joyce is like 9 wins, maybe 10. Well, Dubois is like 12 and 11. No losses, no draws. So these guys have to fight eventually. Maybe they're trying to build something up to see what they do, but if they're doing things like undefeated fights like Gorman, like Dubois, that's what we need for the sport of boxing. We don't need people to drag out until they're in their peak, or they need to fight to see who's better right now. You know what I mean? We can only market so many things in the sport of boxing. I think it should be a champion or a tournament style, way of doing things. Hey, who won on the undercard should fight the winner of the main event. Okay, so that was Dubois, that was Joe Joyce. I think we should match them up. You know what I'm saying? I really do. And that will show everyone where everyone is. So that's how people need to understand how Anthony Joshua became how he was. They didn't put him in a situation where he was comfortable fighting guys that you never heard of, or guys that were less threatening, guys that weren't challenging. They didn't put him in there with like that. They put him in there with guys that were going to test him to see how good he was, and then keep doing that, like a fast learning program. So they kept pushing and fighting and fighting and fighting these top 10 guys, right? And that's how he is. That's why his success is flourishing over now, despite his loss. What that means for Dubois, what that means for Joe Joyce. I think if they want to be that or viewed as one of the best fighters in the world, I think that they should actually do that. I think that they should start fighting those top fighters. Don't wait until you're 30 or 40 wins and no losses. That's just ridiculous. It makes no sense. Then you start fighting people. You're supposed to gradually fight that next opposition. You know what I mean? Step by step. Okay. Dubois beat Gorman. Okay, it's time for Joyce. If Joyce beats when Joyce beat Bryant Jennings, it's time for that. Or they might do a rematch, because I did see Bryant Jennings doing more of the work, or really not more of the work. I'm sorry, let me take that back. He was landing the more efficient punches, the more cleaner punches. He just wasn't doing it like he should have been doing it, I felt. And I think he hurt Joe Joyce in the first round. You know what I mean? Just to counterpunch both of these fights here. And I think these guys should fight. I think they should match up. I don't see why that couldn't happen. Let's make it happen. You guys tell me what you think about Dubois versus Gorman. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.